views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Open BxRx Remote, brought to you from my living workspace, Chauri Executive Suite. I'm Rhina Valentin, your host of Café con Leche every Friday. Here's what's coming up in today's show. Leading things off, we'll learn what the League of Women Voters of the City of New York will be offering residents as we celebrate and learn the significance behind Constitution Day. After that, we'll hear how the Hemispheric Institute at New York University and that are honoring the works of Arthur Avilés with this series, Naked Vanguard, the Arthur Avilés Archive in motion. Then we'll speak to poet Elisabet Velasquez about her young adult debut novel, When We Make It, a story redefining what it means to make it through the lens of a first-generation Puerto Rican 8th grader. Later on in the show, Bobby C brings us an up-to-date with the latest headlines in the world of sports. And lastly, this week's Open Artist Spotlight shines on singer and songwriter Durieux, who talks about his latest projects, followed by a performance you don't want to miss. So sit back y prepárate. All this and more is headed your way, because now we are officially open. Welcome to Open. I'm Rhina Valentin, your host of Café con Leche for the next hour, encouraging you to get social with us online. That is, tweet us and follow us on Instagram at BronxNet TV and like us on Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. And of course, while you're there, you can follow moi on Twitter, FB, Instagram, Insta Stories, and LinkedIn at Rhina Valentin. So today is September 17th, is Constitution Day, and the League of Women Voters of the City of New York are bringing awareness to our constitutional right to vote. And throughout the years, the organization has been dedicated to empowering voters while also defending democracy. And joining us to tell us more about the significance of Constitution Day, we welcome League of Women Voters of the City of New York co-president and board director, Diane Burrows. Hello and welcome.
Hello, and thank you, Rhina, for having me.
Well, thank you for being here with us, and thank you for taking the time to educate our viewers and enroll everybody into really serving our community by using their voices.
Absolutely. It's so important to get involved and participate, because that's what really keeps us strong and keeps our voices strong.
Yeah, you know, and I think people really, really need to understand that every voice counts and matters. And I think that's been challenged over the past year or 2 years, we'll say. And so now that we're now gearing towards voting month, rather election month again, in November, let's just talk a little bit about why this organization is being so proactive, specifically in the Bronx.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah. We really want people to understand, as you just said, the power of their voice. And our organization, the League of Women Voters of the City of New York, we've been doing this actually for 102 years. So engaging voters, encouraging voters to get out and vote, encouraging people in communities to be civically engaged, even if people aren't eligible to vote, to be involved in their communities. Because when you use your voice, you have power. So in order to do that, we wanted to draw attention to the Constitution of the United States, and what better way on its birthday, and to really show people what the League has been saying for 102 years, that your voice matters, you can vote, you can participate, you can be civically engaged.
And so what exactly is the League of Women Voters of the City of New York doing to celebrate Constitution Day?
So what we are doing is we actually have selected 6 assembly districts in the city that have had traditionally very low voter turnout. And what we want to try to do is elevate this message in these communities, because so many folks feel disenfranchised and feel bitter and negative. And we thought that we would target basically 6 communities within Bronx, every place except Staten Island for now, Brooklyn, Bronx, Manhattan, Queens, and really try to elevate this message by distributing free copies of the Constitution in Spanish and in English through libraries. And then also offering folks information about the upcoming election, not only who's on the ballot, but also the important propositions that are going to be on the ballot this time.
So how much time would you say would be invested in that exchange, right? Because here we're talking about the actual document, right? The Constitution, and then there's the information. I want to say, you know, for the sake of educating our viewers, can we talk a little bit about the different legislative roles that are up for election right now?
Sure. So right now in New York City, we have the three citywide elected positions: the mayor, the comptroller, and the public advocate. And we have the borough elections that will include most people, city council member and borough presidents. So those are the elected officials that are going to be on the ballot this time around. And it's really important for everybody to remember that you're represented where you live. So your ballot in one district may look very different from your friend's ballot in another district because of the city council person, or if you're in a different borough. The citywide officials will be the same. And then we have these 5 important propositions, 2 of which we really are involved with because they involve voting.
Right. And so I'm just trying to open up the conversation to help our viewers understand that it's different levels, right? And so everybody always shows up for the presidential election, but then when it's the local elections, it's a little more scarce, right? And so it's important for us to just help them understand that, you know, your assembly member matters, your council member matters, all these different levels matter.
Right. And, you know, it's so interesting because you're right. People line up blocks and blocks long to vote in a presidential election. And really, when you think about it, the local election, your city council person, your borough president, these roles, the public advocate, really affect our lives daily. And that your voice is much stronger when you reach out to your city council person, because remember, your city council person has to live in your neighborhood. So these elected officials really are people that we can impact on a local level. So state elections, national elections, really important, but these local ones are what affect us most personally.
So do you think that New York is trying to restrict access to voting?
I think we have to be vigilant. We have to constantly be vigilant. Because of the work of the League of Women Voters and a lot of other organizations, we have been very, very successful in opening the rights of voters. For example, we now have early voting, which is really important. So for 9 days before actual election day, you can go and vote at a polling site. We now have, or we will have, hopefully, if everybody votes yes on the one proposal about absentee voting, we will have totally no excuse absentee voting permanently. Ranked choice voting, we got that as a result of local work. So if we are vigilant here in New York State, and of course in New York City, we're doing a good job right now, but we can't lose sight of it.
So I had read somewhere that with regards to doing an absentee voting, if there's an error, rather than it being disregarded, you can actually have that error corrected. Can you explain that further?
Sure. That's actually a really important piece that we were involved with. It's called curing your ballot. It actually does not have to do with the way you voted on your ballot. It has to do with the signature on the envelope. Remember, when you vote absentee, instead of signing the poll book like you would do if you were voting in person, you actually sign what's called the oath envelope. And a lot of people, unfortunately, didn't see the location on the back of the envelope where you had to sign. Now, we did get the change. The League of Women Voters was involved in that also, that on the most recent absentee ballot, it was actually bigger font and red font, so it helped people to notice that. But if for some reason somebody doesn't see that and they submit that without a signature, before it wouldn't count. And now the Board of Elections will contact the person to correct that error. So that's a that's a big step.
That is a big step because, you know, one would think if you do something wrong, it automatically disqualifies the voice. And so that's really huge. And it's, thank you for the work that you ladies are doing. So before we go, I want to make sure that our viewers understand that you're going to be accessible to them in various libraries here in the Bronx. Can you just share the details of the events? Because I believe you're referring to them as home bases for Event Date.
Yes. So in the Bronx, we are going to be at the Bronx Library Center at 310 East Kingsbridge Road. And we're going to be at the Tremont Library at 1866 Washington Avenue. So we will be at those two. If you happen to be out and about, we're also going to be in Brooklyn at the Washington Irving Library, which is at 360 Irving Avenue. We're going to be in Manhattan at the library at 174 East 110th Street. And we're going to be in two locations in Queens. We're going to be at the Langston Hughes Library on Northern Boulevard, and we're going to be at the Jackson Heights Library at 3551 81st Street. So we're going to be out and about. You're going to see us. There's going to be, people are going to be wearing logoed shirts, and we will have these constitutions and information about all of this that's on the ballot.
That's wonderful. And so what are the hours before we go?
It'll be whatever hours the library happens to be open on those days. I'm not sure if all libraries have the same hours on those days, but just keep an eye out for us.
No, it's wonderful. I think it's lovely. I think it's a beautiful offering of walking away with an actual printed copy of the Constitution. That's an awesome gift to offer people while educating them, as well as, you know, enrolling people to make sure you get out there and vote. Thank you so much for being here with us, Diane Burrows.
Thank you.
She's co-president board directors at the League of Women Voters for the City of New York. And once again, the League of Women Voters of the City of New York will be handing out a free copy of the U.S. Constitution. And if you're interested in more information, you can visit lwvnyc.org. All right, we have to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll hear about a new series honoring one of our own fellow Bronxites. Don't go anywhere. Hey everyone, and welcome back. The Hemispheric Institute at New York University and the Bronx Academy of Arts and Dance have partnered up together to honor dancer, choreographer, my dear friend, Arthur Avilés. The series, entitled Naked Vanguard, the Arthur Avilés Archive in Motion, will consist of conversations, performances, and video documentation spanning Avilés' decades-long career and more. Joining us to tell us more, we welcome dancer, choreographer Arthur Avilés and NYU Hemispheric Institute Director Ana Dopico, who is also the first Latina to serve in that role. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Wow, thank you so much.
Thank you. Welcome. Congratulations is in order for both of you.
Thank you. I mean, wow, what a pleasure and what an honor for me to have been asked to go into my dungeon and to have the Hemispheric Institute visit that and be able to kind of unearth some dance pieces and some performance pieces that would not have seen the light of day if they had not done it. So I'm truly grateful to the Hemispheric Institute for making sure that that history, that kind of Latino history, that Bronx Latino history, stay alive and stay present. So I'm totally grateful to Ana and the crew.
Anna, what made you the Hemispheric? He just has such a way with words. Right? It's like the dungeon. Anywho, so Anna, first share with us why you chose Arthur. I mean, I adore Arthur, and he has a strong history in the Bronx, but now this is going to be on record for New York, for the next generations to come to have access to. Why was Arthur Avilés chosen?
So the Hemispheric Institute has a long history engaging performance, politics, scholarship, and activism. And the collection of Arthur's work started to be acquired in 2013. And we started really processing it in the NYU library in 2018. This process of acquisition and archiving, everybody needs to know, this means that Arthur's work will be available forever, right, in perpetuity. I started as director in September 2020. I'm Latina. I'm someone who is committed to performance and who has a background in dance. And I want to signal to people the importance of recognizing embodied practices and dance as a major cultural form that's part of changing New York City, that's part of Latino cultural history, and part of the Bronx as a capital of culture, right, of the late 20th century. And Arthur's work is so remarkable and moving and groundbreaking at the level of modern dance, at the level of political intervention, at the level of establishing, right, institutions and companies, that I was just blown away. And I wanted not to just have one event to commemorate it, but to have a whole series of events and to have Arthur in residence at New York University.
Oh my gosh. And so far it already kicked off, and I know we've got an event happening in October and another one in November, but Arthur, please do share what we have, what you have experienced thus far in this amazing celebration of Arthur Avilés.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I mean, actually, we've been at it for about a year and a half, Anna, is that right? Somewhere
For a year.
Yeah. And, you know, the pandemic has really, you know, given a blow to all of us. So I'm so glad that we continued our relationship. We continued to make sure that we were going to take the next step. So here we are, we're ready. And we had a really wonderful event on September 13th, speaking with incredible scholars, Puerto Rican scholars that are in the United States. That's Ramon Rivera Severa, who is a really wonderful dance Puerto Rican scholar. And then there's Lawrence LaFontaine Stokes, who has also spoken about it from a little bit more of a social justice point of view of the work. So it's really fascinating, and I'm proud to have been able to get those two vantage points to come in to it. So our next event is October 13th, and that is going to be an event with Rhina Valentin and Elisabet Macha Marrero, who is my cousin and a drag king. Basically, it is around speaking about, let's say matriarchal image. And I say that in that way, but I don't really mean that. I mean I mean more of a kind of a feminine vantage point to my own soul personally, because that's what you represented, Rhina, and Elisabet Macha Marrero, who I put together a dance piece. I call it a dance piece, but it really was a theater piece, which is really strange.
I was just going to correct you on that, because, you know, I even introduced you as a dancer and a choreographer, but, you know, you wrote a theater piece and you directed a theater piece. So we also didn't mention Arthur Avilés typical theater. And I also, before you continue, I also want to mention the fact that you were already tapping into the importance of mental wellness, because Super Maya Vadeas represented that in just kind of aligning the different aspects of who we are as individuals.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, and artists are such narcissists. You know, we're talking about ourselves, but we do it through other people. And absolutely, it is about being able to find wellness within the mind and the body. And Super Maya Vadeas was about a young girl who was growing up in the Bronx, who was grappling with who she was, what her identity was, how she felt in the world. And the way in which it attacked her was from different personalities. So every personality that was in The Wizard of Oz was actually coming into this character. And it was kind of funny to watch Rhina Valentin just change character again and again and again. She was like confused. She was wondering, who was she? And then there's this tornado that happens that we all know about, that's in our minds and in the fable in itself, and it lands. And that's what happens at the end of the piece. And so I will be speaking with Rhina and with Elisabet about the creation of that. Personally, for me, it's a certain kind of feminine energy that lives within me that expresses itself in a much more balanced way. So that's going to be October 13th. That is going to be live streamed.
Yes.
And then there's November 16th. I will be presenting some of my works on the body of a really wonderful dancer named Nikolai Mackenzie, who is from Jamaica. And him and I are really like working on how it is that I can take the work from my body to another body. Still, from the Caribbean. He's dealing with very similar issues of assimilation, very similar issues of being a queer person in a very macho, dominated society and grappling with that. And but these are abstract dance pieces, and they they feature the revealed body, i.e. I will be naked in these pieces. Actually, I say me, I was naked in those pieces. It will be Nikolai Mackenzie who will bring this role to himself, to his Jamaicanness. We're calling it a Jamaican Bati boy in America.
I could sit here and listen to you speak all day long, and we're already out of time, Arthur. But I think you gave our viewers a taste of what's in store, right? And again, he just basically gave it in as quick of a synopsis of what's to come, because the celebration once again is Naked Vanguard, the Arthur Avilés Archive in motion, and who you heard speaking earlier was Ana Dopico, who is the first Latina to serve in the role as the NYU Hemispheric Institute as director, and then of course there's the famous, legendary Arthur Avilés representing the Bronx, representing inclusivity in being out like that.
Yeah.
We love that. And we love that about you. Thank you for bringing it to our viewers. And you guys, once again, for the upcoming events. Oh my gosh, there's my phone. Anyway, for you guys, the upcoming events that are taking place regarding Naked Vanguard, the Arthur Avilés Archive in motion, you can visit badbronx.org, or you can also visit the Hemispheric Institute.org. All right, we have to take a quick break, but when we return, we're going to hear about a young adult novel that's hitting the shelf this week. Don't go anywhere. Hey everyone, welcome back. Our next guest is a Boricua poet from Brooklyn whose work has been featured in Muzzle Magazine, Winter Tangerine, Latina Magazine, We Are Me Too, and Tidal. And that's just to name a few. But today she joins us to discuss her debut novel, When We Make It. Hey, a story redefining what it means to make it through the lens of a first-generation Puerto Rican 8th grader. The story, which I happen to be a fan of, actually touches upon mental illness, sexual assault, food insecurity, and gentrification. And joining us to tell us more, we welcome author and poet Elisabet Velasquez. Woo!
Thank you, Rhina. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
If we had an audience, that's what you would be hearing. Instant fan, instant fan, instant fan, instant fan. And what I didn't say is that it's rhythmically written, because that is really what got me hooked.
Yeah.
It's rhythmic. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for reading the book. Thank you so much, like I said, for being a part of so many people's making it. And I am just thank you for championing it, and thank you for having me. I can't wait to talk about
Yeah,
it.
I'm in tears. I'm in tears because, right? So while the book is a fiction, it's clear to me that there's a lot of details in there that really have you, I can tell you experienced some here and there in your upbringing. And aside from the bravery and the boldness, the humility, and most importantly, the resilience that is really represented in this book, it's going to really serve a lot of young urban individuals. And I say urban because it's an urban story, even though it's Boricua centric, it's an urban story for those who have had to overcome adversity.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, the book was definitely inspired by my own life. So the story follows a young protagonist. Her name is Sarai. And she's a young woman who's just trying to figure out what it means to make it in the neighborhood that she's growing up with all of the things that you mentioned that were happening. What does it mean to move forward and keep going, even when you're not really sure what that means? So yeah, I grew up asking myself a lot of questions about that very topic, like what am I gonna be? You know, the question that we're all asked is like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you're like, I don't know, like, you know, and then you have all of these people telling you what you should be or what you need to be in order to you know, make it. And so I had a lot of those questions. I wanted to be a lawyer when I was like 10, 11. You know, my parents wanted me to be like a doctora, you know. And so I actually, at the age of 16, I had a baby, and I had to leave school to look for a job to support my daughter. And so all of that was out the window. It was a scandal. It was, Rhina, it was a scandal. I grew up religious. And so it was like, oh my God, you're 16, you are having a baby, your life is ruined, your life is done. And so that was the message that I got from my parents, from the church, from the school system, who, you know, the guidance counselor didn't know what to do with me. You know, she was like, oh, you gotta go. You are setting a bad example for the rest of our school community here.
Ouch, ouch.
And so I was left really with like more questions than I had answers about where my life was going. And now I'm bringing in a child into this earth that I have to figure out answers, not just for me, but for her. And so that was really, it was a journey.
And how old is she now?
She's 21. She just turned 21.
Right. So I just want people to be aware that, you know, though you're looking like a spring chicken over there,
Thank
that
you,
we're talking,
you know.
that this is years in development. And the reason I became such an instant fan is because of, you know, just being of an urban upbringing and understanding the stories with regards to like the Bodeguero, the 116th Street Festival, the just the block being almost like your street family. I mean, there's just so many things that I was able to relate to just from having been raised in that type of environment. But the beauty of the way you did it, which I think is the most cleverest thing I've ever read, is that it's all done in poetic form. Every single story is its own poetry.
Yeah. I didn't think I realized that my life was so poetic growing up, you know, that it was its own art form, because we are, I think, taught to see all of the ugly things, or that, you know, our neighborhood is ugly, or the way we grow up is ugly, you know, and there are ugly things in our lives and in our neighborhoods, but there's so much art and there's so much innovation, and there's so much resilience, which is a word that I struggle with because we didn't grow up being like, I'm resilient, you know.
Right,
I mean,
right.
we talked about, you know, the bounce back. Oh, the bounce back is going to be, watch when I bounce back, right? But it wasn't framed as we were artists, and we were always artists. And so that was something that I wanted to capture in the book, is how beautiful our lives were and are And I really wanted young people to just look around at the regular, you know, like Cardi B says, the regular, degular, you know, the bodega, the fiao, like hood credit, right? Like this form of economics that is developed in our communities in order to take care of each other, right? There's this big push, mutual aid ever since the pandemic happened. And I think that a lot of people might think that mutual aid is new. We've been taking care of each other.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. Going to the bodeguero with a little note on credit, you know?
Right. The whole
That's
notebook, it
community.
was a
That's
system. We
Yeah.
were organized, right?
Exactly.
And so, you know, these are things that we have cultivated out of the need to survive.
Right.
Because we knew that no one was going to take care of us if we didn't take care of us. And we did in those little ways, is how we did that. And I really wanted to show that kind of mutual aid of the spirit, really.
Yeah, man, it's beautiful the way you shine a light, even with the language, right? Because, again, going back to my urban upbringing, I was like all excited reading what we called back then slang. Now they call it ebonics. But I was like, oh my gosh, she pulled out these words. That's how I knew. I said she was keeping record of this all these years.
And, you know, how do you, even if you don't keep record, this is like, you know, even if you don't write, right? These are things, these are memories that are ingrained in you. These are the things, the people, the situations that shape you. And they deserve to be, those stories deserve to be told. And so I really wanted to share the story in a way that anybody could read this book and connect back to their own story and be like, oh, wow, I have a story. You know, I didn't know that I could write about this. And I didn't know that somebody wanted to read it, you know, and I want everybody to just know and understand that they are artists. Whether you're a writer, whether you're, you know, an orator, you know, I'm a better writer than I am speaker. So that's why I'm like, you know, but I want everybody, I want everybody to connect to their stories and really know, and whatever language that is, right? Whether you code switching or whether you know, writing your story in Spanish or writing your story in, you know, ebonics or whatever it is, like you get to own that. And that's important.
It is, and it's beautiful because you wrote it so that it's accessible to those who are coming into themselves at an age that they're coming into themselves, and you've also made it available everywhere possible, especially the library, which is where you found yourself, which is really I don't think I gave it away, but it's a pivotal point in the book that really sheds light on accessibility.
Mm-hmm. And even, you know, I think that a lot of people, you know, the library is important, right? And I'm glad that, you know, you'll be able to find when we make it at the library, if you can't go cop it. But I think that often we forget that there are things in our lives that may prevent even us from going to the library, right? I remember being 16, 17, I was out of school, was trying to figure out what to do with my daughter. I didn't have time to go to the library. And so I missed out on a lot of text, a lot of books. And I often felt like I was out of school, so I was working. So I really wasn't getting the information as much as some of my friends who were in school, you know, folks who went to college, and I'm still like hustling, trying to figure out, you know, what job is going to pay me next better so I can support my kids. So there are still barriers that prevent people from even going to the library, right?
Yeah.
So I think that we have to be cognizant of that when we speak to young people who haven't read books, right? And you're like, well, you could go to the library. And I don't think that's the approach, right? I think that we start with showing young people the importance of their stories, right? Like a whole book. You are a book.
That's exactly what you did. You're like, hey, it took me all these years to put it in writing, but the beauty is that you wrote it in such a way that it's welcoming to anybody. And you know, a mí me están regañando because we're out of time, and I could just keep going on and on. I know. And I'm going, oh my gosh, I'm so.
We'll link up in another format. We'll do it.
We have to, because I'm so proud of you, and I'm so proud to be presenting your work to our viewers, and I can't say it enough. Congratulations. I know the book hasn't officially been released. I unfortunately got I fortunately got a pre-order, right? I fortunately got a pre-order. However, I understand that the pre-orders for When We Make It are now available wherever books are sold. And once again, that's Elisabet Velasquez, author, poet of When We Make It. And the official release, once again, is September 21st. And if you are interested in any information regarding where you can get the book, you can visit Elisabet, no H, Velasquez.com. And no what?
And no Z.
And no Z. ElisabetVelasquez.com. All right. Bueno, Bobby C's Weekly Sports Roundup is coming up next.
Yes, thank you so much.
This round of the Subway Series goes to the Amazons. In the midst of a miserable season with the Mets, shortstop Francisco Lindor kept alive his new team's postseason chances by hitting 3 home runs. In Sunday's nightcap, the power display also dropped the crosstown rival Yankees out of a playoff spot and nearly set off a brawl between the two teams. Mets take 2 of 3, including Sunday's 7-6 victory in the Subway Series. Here's more with Lindor.
When I came out, dug out, and I acknowledged them, it was special for sure. It was a cool moment in my career, especially being a Subway Series. It was a good day. I'm glad we ended up on top.
Lindor and the Mets grabbed the 5th spot, while the 20th anniversary of 9/11 comes in at number 4 on the front end of our 5 on 5. 5 sports stories recapping the week, 5 looking ahead. Pinstripers and Mets did a much better job playing nice on an evening for tributes and remembrances. We go back inside the locker room for more.
Baseball played a big part in the healing of this city and the country 20 years ago, and I think that that still resonates with us today. And just fortunate for our team to be a part of such a special day. And it was definitely emotional, but it was fun to be a part of.
Make sure to catch our sit-down with legendary producer Ross Greenberg on his new documentary, Extra Innings from 9/11, 20 years later. Derek Jeter became Mr. November during that memorable World Series run back in 2001. 20 years later, the captain can add Hall of Famer to his ledger. Our BronxNet cameras captured all the sights and sounds from Cooperstown, including a look at the installation of his new plaque in the National Baseball Hall of Fame. We caught up with Derek afterward.
The Yankee fans appreciate their history. That's what makes it so special. That's what makes the organization so special. So to have that number of people come out here, like I said, all things considered, I'm glad I had a chance to share that experience with the fans, because they're a big reason why I'm here today.
What better way to segue to number 2 than going from Jeter here on 5 on 5? That leaves us with 2 race victories Sunday for another one of our recent guests and star motorcycle racer Jake Gagne. Gagne wrapped up the 2021 Moto America Superbike Championship on a record-setting 2-race Sunday at New Jersey Motorsports Park. The Californian came into the weekend a winner of a record 13 straight. He finished the weekend with 3 more wins, including 2 on Sunday for his 16th victory of the season. Sweet 16 matches the record held jointly by Josh Hayes and Cameron Beaubier for Superbike wins in a single season, while also tying 3-time 500cc world champion and Moto America president Wayne Rainey's mark for career victories. Here's Jake after winning number 15 and taking home the title he believes Cam will approve.
You picked up some of that dominance from him, and what's it been like to kind of carry the torch in terms of being champion?
Yeah, I learned a lot from Cam last year, right? Watching him, how he rides this R1. He's had a lot of experience with this bike, and like I keep saying, I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot being smooth, how to ride the bike a little more efficiently, try to do what the R1 likes to do and not try to fight it so much. And so yeah, again, hats off to him. Hats off to the whole team. It just shows, we know we got the best bike out there, you know. I mean, and I'm lucky to be on this crew with these great guys, with this great motorcycle, and everybody's having fun. So I'm blessed, and let's go to race 2 though.
Here's Gagne on tying the record and sharing a moment with Rainey afterward.
He mentioned, like, yeah, he had 16, and you know, he wishes the best. Hope that I can match that today. And but yeah, it's been an amazing weekend, truly. And getting the championship was, I mean, that's a dream come true. It didn't quite set in, you know, because I had to focus on this race too. But it's amazing, and I still can't really believe it. We've got 16 wins in a row. It's pretty unbelievable. But all I do is go out there and ride as hard as I can every lap of every race, and this bike is the bike to beat.
5 classes of road racing for Moto America in New Jersey this past weekend. Among the many highlights, 19-year-old Sean Dylan Kelly put the finishing touches on the Supersport Championship and did so with a special tribute helmet honoring the late great MotoGP legend Nicky Hayden. The exact replica of Hayden's helmet inspired SDK in his championship pursuit.
It's a really big honor to be able to run this Nicky Hayden edition Arai helmet. They gave me this earlier this year at Brainerd, and I've always been, I wouldn't say super close because I didn't know Nicky for so many years before his unfortunate passing, but I did spend some time with him, and he was one of the only guys that was really looking at the younger riders, and he gave me a lot of support and honestly gave me strength, you know, to look up to him, and I still do to this day.
Stay tuned for my C-list. I get to live like a Moto America racer myself, at least for 2 laps. The Giants and Jets may have championship pursuits of their own, but Week 1 didn't go as planned for either team. The Jets were edged 19-14 in Carolina to former QB Sam Darnold and the Panthers, while the Giants fell 27-13 to the Denver Broncos at MetLife Stadium. Here's more.
We didn't earn the right to walk out with a victory tonight. We've got to play better. We have to coach better and put our players in positions to make more plays. I'd like to go ahead and thank the fans for coming out. Obviously, this was an atmosphere that we've been waiting for some time. They were great today. We have to earn their cheers. They were very supportive. They were great. There was great energy in the stadium. We got to do something more as a team to make them want to go ahead and stay into the game longer than they can.
I'm getting better, you know, experiencing, you know, having stuff in your face. You got to be able to play. You know, that's part of the quarterback position. You know, you can't just say, you know, oh, there's pressure, I can't do my job. You know, that's why quarterbacks, it's a tough position to come by. So, you know, it's good for me, and I'm just going to keep working and getting better at that.
There's 5 in recap, and here's 5 to look out for. And at number 1, the Bronx Bombers open a home series with Cleveland tonight after wrapping up in Baltimore this week. The Mets, meantime, welcome rival Philadelphia to Citi Field for a home weekend series 2. At 2, the Giants and Jets will flip-flop playing at MetLife, with the Jets in the Meadowlands for their home opener against rival New England, and the G-Men hitting the road Sunday to face their division rivals in Washington. Gangrene kicks at 1. The Giants have the nightcap at 8:20. From football to football, NYCFC will be in Ohio Saturday to face Cincinnati. 7:30 p.m. MLS action Saturday night. That's number 3. And at 4, 2 races left on the IndyCar schedule as they move closer to crowning a champion themselves. Laguna Seca this Sunday at 3 p.m. And at number 5, for the first time in league history, the Elite Professional Bull Riders, PBR, Unleash the Beast, featuring the top 40 bull riders in the world, will buck into Newark, New Jersey, welcoming fans to the Prudential Center this weekend for 2 nights of competition on the 18th and 19th. That's 5 on 5. We hit the C-list as I attempt to tame a Moto America Superbike, a beast of its own, doubling with racer Chris Ulrich. Life in the fast lane, going 170 miles per hour as a passenger on the Suzuki GSX R1000R is even more intense than you may think. And despite my previous motorcycle experiences, nothing prepared me for the intensity and the adrenaline rush of riding on the back of this amazing machine with Chris at the controls. Chris started road racing in the early 90s and finished his career in 2016, having secured 9 AMA Pro podiums and 2 race wins. He also co-rode to 3 endurance wins and 4 national endurance championships. To boot, he's given over 1,600 of these Dunlop X-Star Suzuki 2-seat superbike rides, something I will never forget. Here's some of my experience and some insight from the racer himself.
We could describe the sensations that we had, like the speed and the braking force and all that, to the media But until you really truly got on the back of the bike and you experienced it yourself, whether you're riding the motorcycle yourself or you're a passenger on the 2-seat Superbike program, you didn't really know what we were doing. And as soon as we started doing that, the engagement from the media skyrocketed, and they really knew what we were doing, why we did it. And yeah, it's definitely 100% a sport. It's a very physical sport that all these guys on the grid, they train very hard. They're elite athletes, and it's also a mix between man and machine. So you have to kind of gel and work with the bike, but it's a very, very physical sport.
A special thanks to Hannah Henderson of Bolt PR, and Moto America's Paul Carruthers, Sean Bice, David Swartz, and of course Chris for this incredible Media 2-Up experience. The extreme lean angles, strong G-forces during acceleration, cornering, and braking most definitely provide a greater understanding and appreciation of the riders who race and the sport of motorcycle racing itself. The fastest athletes on two wheels is an absolute understatement. Moto America rounds out the season at Barber Motorsports Park this weekend in Alabama. Go grab yourself some tickets and a 2-Up too. You will not be disappointed. That's your look at sports. I'm Bobby C.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. Our last guest is a singer, songwriter from the Bronx who's known for his captivating music, and for the past 8 years he's performed all over the city, both as a solo act and with his band in venues such as Arlene's Grocery, the Shrine, and most notably the Apollo. And now he's here to talk about his new single and upcoming album, Something Real. Please welcome Durieux. Hello.
Rhina, how are you?
I just love the way the name rolls off of my
I appreciate that.
Oh, it's so good to see you. I mean, be with you, we should say.
Yes,
right?
yes. Same.
And, I'm mentioning all these amazing venues, but not all of them have reopened. And, inquiring minds want to know, how you been throughout the pandemic?
Well, before the pandemic, we were planning to release this album in 2020. We had a whole Midwest tour planned out, and then due to the pandemic, it was all canceled. At the beginning of the pandemic, I actually had COVID, and it was a very challenging time. Being inside, not feeling any kind of motivation. I did try to find the motivation and the spark, doing little online shows and stuff like that, but it just wasn't the same as being in the space with people. So
right.
For 3-4 months, I didn't touch my guitar. I bought a bike. I was riding bike everywhere, trying to clear my mind. I went into therapy. Therapy did me very well. And I took the time, a lot of artists took the time to create. I took the time to really find myself and hone in on my mental health.
I get it, especially after contracting it. Did you get it severely? Was it a long recovery for you?
Luckily, it was not a long recovery. I mean, I was in bed for about 10 days. It was early. It was during the early stages where they were telling you they didn't really have the test out yet. So they were saying, hey, if you have these symptoms and you're young and your lungs are cleared, don't go to the hospital, because if you go, you're either going to give it to someone or you're going to contract it. So just go home and rest.
Rest. Got it. And so, fast forward into 20 months later, I know you just recently did a presentation with the Caribbean Cultural Center, Afribembe.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so, as New York has reopened per se, and hopefully we remain that way, was that your first big event, meaning big as an audience size?
It was. I would say it was the biggest as far as production, where it was big stage, lots of speakers, full band. And it was very strange, being outside, being with those people, being able to see those faces. It was a really great experience, but it's also you can't throw caution to the wind because of it.
I wanted to know what that was like for you, right? Because I'm getting this energy from you right now, just in our conversation, that you're still acclimating to being back to with people and being out with people and being out performing live presentations. I'm just picking that up from the way you're sharing your story.
Yeah, I mean, you're stuck inside for a year and a half. You do tend to like lose. So like it's adjusting to being social again, how to communicate with people, how to like what's the right thing now? Do we shake hands? Do we just wave? Say hello from a distance, even though we're vaccinated? Like it's still an adjustment period. And I mean, it's still great to feel that energy in the room. And just be with people in a space that's creative. Because like, well, the one thing I will say is like doing these performances, you can tell that this is what people want.
Right.
They want to be out. They want to feel part of the experience.
Well, it's definitely
music.
It's different. It's different to feel it than it is virtually. Were you performing a lot virtually? I mean, I know you said it took you a certain amount of period to you shut it down and you were like just being to yourself and doing whatever mental wellness you felt you needed, and bike riding and being outdoors and really honing in on yourself and I guess your direction, right? Because I think if there's anything that this pandemic has done is it has definitely placed us in this position of questioning what really matters.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's about, you know, as New Yorkers, we're always on the go, and we were forced to slow down, you know, because when we're constantly on the go, we neglect things that, you know, we need to pay attention to. And that whole thing of being forced to slow down made me realize I had to pay attention to a lot of things that I just completely ignored or missed. And one of those is like not taking advantage of the fact that, you know, being in a room with people and playing shows is like, you never know when you're going to be able to do it again. The online shows were great. You know, there were times that I did shows at the beginning of pandemic where it was still a great experience, like being in a Zoom link and seeing all those faces. But it wasn't the same as like physically being in the room and feeling that energy.
Absolutely. But, you know, in hindsight, now you've got a new album coming out that I'm sure has additional meaning behind it based on its creative period, right? The time capsule in which it was developed. So before we go, let's talk about it because I know you're going to give us a taste of one of the songs.
Yes. So Something Real I wrote, it's a combination of an acoustic EP that I did back in 2018 called Hinge, which is an acronym for Have I Not Given Enough. And that was another like piece that I did where I was reflecting on my mental health and, you know, trying to find myself a little more. But there's some other songs that talk about, you know, on the album Something Real, where it's like, you know, I have a song that talks about not letting your day job like hinder you with finding your dream, and you know, dealing with situations where people are talking about you, spreading rumors that are not true when they don't really know the real story.
Right.
And just revisiting that acoustic EP with the full band this is probably one of my most proud works, especially with the guys that I'm working with now. It's been a really good experience, regardless of the fact that like some of it was recorded at home during pandemic and half of it was done in the studio, but it definitely holds to the essence of the name of Something Real.
That's what's up. That is so what's up. And thanks for bringing it here to our viewers. And, you know, I really want to acknowledge you for your transparency and just really putting your mental wellness at the forefront and not feeling ashamed to talk about it, right? Because I think that in essence, in some aspect, is what makes us artists, is that mind of knowing that it needs to be tended to, and then you use your artistry as your outlet. So I'm so excited that we had this conversation and that you were able to create this musical masterpiece that we're about to experience. Everyone, Durieux! Woo!
Thank you so much.
All right, so we do have to take a quick break, and but when we return, Durieux is going to perform for us, so don't go anywhere. Hey everyone, and welcome back. Here now to perform, please welcome Durieux.
You've been chasing a rumor instead of checking in, acting like asking a question is some sort of sin. They know how to rile you up, then we'll tear it apart from within. I try to break through to you, but you just won't listen. Now would you just talk to me? Even just a message on the mirror. You haven't been yourself lately, and I'm to blame. I wish you could be a little clearer. We both said some things that cut deep, but somehow we made it to the other side. But now you've called up something that you won't consider might just be a lie. You've been chasing a rumor, and I hope it doesn't consume you. You've been chasing a rumor, and I hope it doesn't consume you. Whatever path you take, I wish you well either way. Whatever choice you make, I love you anyway. I know you've been through it, and it's just hard to trust again. I know that walls will simply fall, they fade away, and I'll wait forever and a day. We both said some things that could deep, but somehow we made it to the other side. But now we're in a place where we don't know if this will crash or if it'll fly. You've been chasing a rumor, and I hope it doesn't consume you. You've been chasing a rumor, and I hope it doesn't consume you. Whatever path you take, I wish you well either way. Whatever choice you make, I love you anyway. Either way, 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 anyway.
For more on Durieux music, please make sure to follow him on all social media platforms at Durieux Music. That is our show today, mi gente. Thanks to all our guests for coming through, and to you, our viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of the show, you can check out the recapcast tonight, 24 hours a day, at BronxNet.tv. I'm Rhina Valentin, and for all of us here at Open, may the universe provide paz, prosperity, y amor. Adios.